Hey, good morning. So, what is this thought of being expansive, and what is the difference between being expansive and being contractive? And self-talk that encourages one or the other. So, that is what I would love to talk with you this morning. Hey there, let me know where you are joining from. It's lovely to see you this morning. And yeah, expansion and contraction is something that we have a lot to do with by our self-talk. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that, but it's a really interesting topic. So I'm Kylie Ansett. I am the Alignment Whisperer, and I am the guide to seekers of alignment, those who want to get into alignment with their inner wisdom and understand a bit more about some of the internal processes. So good morning, welcome. I'm coming to you from beautiful Sydney, Australia, and this is your daily dose of alignment. Okay, so what is this concept of expansion? How do you do that? That is interesting. Okay, yeah, I've never had to try and do that before. What is this concept of expansion or contraction? So basically, when we have expansion, we are more connected, we're more connected with ourselves, we're more connected with the world around us, we feel more connected to our higher purpose, to our calling, and most importantly, our thoughts are creative. And when, for example, if we have a problem, if we're feeling expansive, we get creative about finding the solution to the problem. Now, on the other hand, if we have a problem and we're feeling contractive, or we're asking the kind of questions that contract us, then the opposite happens. We actually we can't find solutions. We just say, I don't know. You know, things aren't working out. And our energy contracts, our vibration contracts, and we have less ability to connect with our inner wisdom, which has all of the solutions. So this is a really interesting concept. And so often, now I spoke yesterday about the kind of questions that we ask ourselves internally all the time that either encourage or discourage this kind of thinking. So some of the examples I was talking about yesterday, the kind of questions that we ask ourselves that close us down or that are more contractive are the kind of questions that the answer is not going to help us get creative. So today I want to talk about the kind of questions that you can ask yourself that are going to stimulate, in fact, believe this or not, it stimulates blood flow to the frontal cortex when you ask these sort of questions, when you get into an expansive state. And when blood flow is coming to this part of your brain, you just get incredibly creative. So there's like a scientific thing going on there. But when you stimulate the frontal cortex of your brain, the questions that you ask are ones that expand and let you think, okay, well, you get answers that you would never have otherwise. So let's look at some of those kind of questions. So you may have heard of open-ended or closed questions. So an open-ended question is one that could have any possible answer and not something just like yes or no. So the kind of questions to ask yourself would start with things like, how could I? So let's say your question was that you were having stress around a certain situation. So let's say you were feeling stressed about having this meeting. It was going to be like some meeting that was causing you anxiety. So rather than asking yourself internally these kind of questions like, why do I always get so stressed when I have these, like say it's a job interview, why do I always get stressed when I have these job interviews? Why can't I just be more natural? Now, if you ask those questions, you are closing down. You're actually dragging blood away from your frontal cortex, which is the creative center, and you're pulling that blood to, believe it or not, the lizard brain, the back of your brain, which is your flight or fight survival kind of place. Now there's obviously many different processes going on here, but just on that one level, when you ask questions that contract your energy, you go into survival mode. And from that place, you are just like, how can I not die? Like, what do I have to do here that's, and those are the kind of answers that you're going to come up with, right? How can I not die? Now, on the other hand, if you activate that frontal cortex, and meditation is one of the things that will do that, as do so many other things like yoga and certain other breathing techniques, but also asking these questions. How can I tap into my inner wisdom? Now, let's say you answer that question. How can I act like I did when I was really confident? How can I show up in a really confident way? Now, if you start asking those questions, this is like, say, I'm using the example of the job interview, but whatever the situation is that you're in, whether it's the self-talk. So I asked you yesterday to start looking at what kind of self-talk was happening as you go through the day. Like, let's say you're running late for something, or I don't know, you trip over, or you skip the gym, or you eat that food that you promised you wouldn't. Now, what kind of self-talk happens after that? And if you were taking notice yesterday, I bet that you will be very interested to know that a lot of the self-talk was contractive. A lot of the self-talk was putting you in a box. And if you spoke like that, and I'm not just talking about beating up on yourself, because I know if you do that, like, obviously, you're not going to feel good, like questions like, oh, why am I such an idiot? Why do I always self-sabotage? Now, if you ask yourself that question, there is no positive answer. Like, imagine talking to another person like that, and you're just going to make them feel guilty. You're going to make them feel defensive. You're going to make them feel like they're less than, that they're no good. Now, if we do this to ourselves on a regular basis, well, what do you think is going to happen? It's certainly not going to be activating that expansive inner wisdom connected vibration that allows us to become more connected to our higher purpose, to our inner wisdom, and to the things that create a more beneficial life. So the questions to ask are ones that are going to activate curiosity. You may not have answers to them. It's not about answering these questions. Let me really get that straight from here. It's totally not about answering these questions. It's about asking questions that trigger, maybe the way they trigger would be, well, I don't know, but what an interesting question, and I want to think about that. And that's the kind of triggering that allows blood flow to the frontal cortex, allows creative thinking, and all of your amazing, like, if you've ever found yourself doing something or saying something or being in a place where you go, how did I get here? How did I manage to speak this truth? It's because you are asking yourself those sort of questions. So how can I activate more wisdom, and how can I find a really interesting way to do this thing? Or how can I make sure I was in the right time at the right place at the right time? Like, these are the kind of questions that, if you start making a habit of self-talking with these questions, it will blow your mind as to just how amazing some of the things that the possibilities will be, and how you will find yourself doing things, saying things, and thinking things that you never would have otherwise. I've got this little guy. Come and say hello, Jasper. Yes. You'll find yourself saying things that come from definitely a place of inner wisdom. What are you doing, sweetie? That inner wisdom is the kind of thing that we all have. We all have this inner wisdom, but how often are we accessing it? How often are we tapping into it and coming from that place? And my wish for you is that you find a way to activate it on a more regular basis. And these questions, this self-talk, this inner dialogue is definitely a very powerful way to be able to do that. So I encourage you over the next few days to just play around with this. First of all, becoming aware and noticing what are the this tail, mister, is getting in my face. Start noticing what is the inner dialogue that you are currently having. That's the first thing to be curious about. And then if it is less than expansive, how can you ask questions that activate a more open-ended answer? Ones that are not the answers. Let's not worry about the answers at this point. It's more just about getting that curious kind of response. That's what you're looking for. So I'm going to encourage you to do that. It's going to be fun. You will be amazed at just what comes up. So go and have fun, enjoy, and I will look forward to speaking to you tomorrow. Bye.